Take a seat.
Because give me an opportunity to explain what is the purpose of Tamiflu. Tamiflu is not a vaccine. As on today, there is no vaccine for this new virus because it's still new. There are researchers working round the clock to try to come up with a vaccine. But in practical terms, vaccine probably the earliest you can get is within half a year. And we hope by that time, the vaccine will be commercially available, then we can do mass vaccination in preparation for subsequent waves. But at this point in time, there is no vaccine. But for people already infected, then prompt treatment by Tamiflu appears to be effective, or Tamiflu or Relenza, so there are alternatives here, appears to be effective. So that is the purpose of Tamiflu. So please don't go out to buy Tamiflu or ask doctors to vaccinate you with Tamiflu. In fact, there has been studies, even last year, because of people who vaccinate themselves with Tamiflu, I suppose out of ignorance. And doctors are discovering that it creates resistant problem because, so that time the concern was H5N1. And there have been studies whereby they found that people who vaccinate, inverted commas, themselves with Tamiflu and find that Tamiflu doesn't seem to protect them if they are exposed to H5N1. And therefore you will see that in fact if you are healthy and you apply yourself Tamiflu, it actually doesn't protect you. In fact, it may hurt your chances of getting treatment in the future. So therefore, Tamiflu is for the purpose of treatment. In the case of Singapore, because of the way we organize things, all patients will be treated by government. So therefore, government holding the Tamiflu stock is the right way to go. I think your question about release of 25% may be inspired by what is happening in US. US is quite different. US, because they have federal and they have state. So the stockpile so far is a federal stockpile. So when they say release, means Washington releases it to the states to gear up. So like California, they'll get their fair share of Tamiflu so that they can proceed to treat patients in California. But in Singapore, because of the way we organize it, it is academic. It doesn't apply here. As to adequacy of the stock, I think all the studies in the past suggest that 20-25% is a reasonable level of stockpile. And that's why WHO advised all these years to all countries, which we all comply, is to stock up to about 25% plus and minus. You have extra money, you can always stock up more. In fact, we have always been topping up. And even just before this crisis, we have been topping up our Tamiflu, so now we have more than 1 million doses. So at this point in time, I think it's more than adequate. I don't think people need to worry if they are sick in Singapore of not enough Tamiflu. Yeah.
We're also buying Relenza.
Yeah.
We're also buying Relenza, so it's not just one source. But we'll continue to review and see what we need to do to make sure that we have enough supply for treatment.
From state sides, in that case, then should we be getting the vaccination for normalcy to prevent further spread?
I think I can ask DMS because I'm not a doctor. There has been studies because you see every winter season, WHO will issue guidelines on how the concoction should look like. Because as you heard from the briefing just now, there are many strains of the winter flu. So although the current flu vaccine that people use the last few months does contain H1N1, but the effectiveness of it protecting against this particular novel virus is doubtful. Yeah. So if you go out and get yourself vaccinated now with this, hoping that it will protect you from this, it may not.
It's what my minister has said is quite correct. There is no evidence that this particular vaccine that we are using now currently will protect you against this new strain. Hence, really getting yourself vaccinated at this particular stage may be inappropriate. I think there was a good article by Andy Ho in today's papers, Straits Times, talking about vaccination.
Yeah.
In your planning to respond to this crisis, have you been advised by scientists using same map models how long to expect this crisis to last? How far into the future or have any model?
We had used modeling to determine the amount of Tamiflu that we must have for this particular instance, and that is how we came to 25% and 1.25 million, which includes a background cases of people who may present with non-influenza but the usual common respiratory tract infection. We have also studied previous pandemics and have estimated that this period we are talking about may be about 2 months, by which time we expect once the pandemic starts it will be over or be going down by 2 months. Whether a second wave comes after that will depend on the character of the virus and what kind of changes take place.
Two questions regarding traveling. First, would Singapore expand the countries that you would advise people not to visit at the moment, apart from Mexico? Secondly, in terms of people traveling from these affected countries like Mexico, would you quarantine these passengers?
So right now we have no plans to stop people from coming into Singapore. We take the necessary precaution measures. And as for travel advisories, I think as far as travel is concerned, just take the precautions. And if indeed you want to go to Mexico, you think carefully whether you want to go to Mexico in the light of the flu transmission that is happening in Mexico. I think you have to take a personal decision on that. But really, we don't have any reason to go to Mexico at this point in time, or if you can postpone it, maybe you want to think about that.
Sorry, Dipen, in regards to the traveling, there are a lot of Singaporean students and workers in abroad, US, Canada, and even multiples of any action taken during that?
Well, it's the same advice that we'll give to Singaporeans here. Take the necessary precautions, adopt high personal hygiene, wash hands, and see doctors. No point in rushing to come back here, particularly when they have work to do or when they have studies to complete. So stay where they are, and you'll be better treated that way rather than fly long distances, and particularly if they do not know if they have the flu.
Mr. Kaur, is it really necessary for hospitals to postpone elective surgeries when there's been no suspect cases here? And second question, if there are cases here, will the government consider home detention orders?
Yeah, thank you. I think that is part of our precaution because if let's say a cluster begins to build up, then the need for isolation rooms and beds will just overnight suddenly increase. So I think it is very sound practice to begin to, because we are talking about non-electives here. These are non-urgent cases. So that's why we advise our hospitals, in fact, since over the weekend, to begin to unwind and cut down numbers. It will cause some inconvenience to the patients. We hope they will be understanding. But key point is these are non-electives. So of course, emergency cases, let's say cancer patients, of course we look at it very differently. But for those who are non-electives, where surgery can wait. Sorry. Oh yeah, yeah, electives. for non-urgent elective cases where surgeries can be postponed, then you can always wait a few more weeks or a few more months.
Let me just clarify. Home quarantine order is not home detention order. Home detention order applies to prisoners who are released early, and we take them and they go on home detention. But if you are required, because you got flu or SARS, like when we had the old days of SARS, and we say you stay at home and you're quarantined at home, and that's a home quarantine order. They're two very different categories of people.
So home quarantine, would it be implemented if there are suspect cases here?
Of course, home quarantine is a very important part of the protection that follows contact tracing. So the idea is if we find that a probable case that has come to contact with a confirmed case, but either the fever has already but it's not yet confirmed to be the case, then we try to keep them in the hospitals or at home. So that's the purpose. It's isolation. It's to separate them from the rest of the community so that they don't go around infecting people. So it's an unnecessary risk that we try to manage. But those without symptoms who have just come back from affected region, I will make a plea that to be just responsible, that let's say if I've just come back from Mexico, I think it would be good practice to just try not to wander about, go to too many places, shopping or whatever. Stay at home if you can for 7 days to see if symptoms crop up. If symptom doesn't crop up, then likelihood is you are clear. But I think that is just sound social responsibility to your fellow Singaporeans.
Once someone gets untypable influenza A, does it mean that he has confirmed swine flu? Because in New Zealand, the health minister there said that even though 3 out of 11 school children has confirmed swine flu, they can assume that all 11 has swine flu.
No, our plan is, as I think when Lynn James presented it, she said that will be probable. When you have influenza A, which is untypable, we will then proceed to do appropriate genomic sequence and identify whether it is close to what we have as the new strain as published by WHO. And if it is so, then we will confirm it at this particular stage. But as a probable case itself, we will not call it confirmed. The untypable influenza A is not equivalent to a confirmed case.
I think these are just different stages of coming to a conclusion. Are you or are you not this particular Mexican swine flu? So that we can decide on what is the proper procedure to manage this case. So if you are confirmed to be say H3N2, then it's quite clear you are not. But if you are type A, but not yet typable, then we need a couple of days to confirm the diagnosis. In which case, then from hospital point of view, we'll treat you as if you are, so that we protect you and the rest of the community.
Take a seat.